Good morning, everyone. I hope your evening was fun, restful, and maybe that you got at least some sleep last night. It's been certainly a very interesting first day, and I think this morning will be really wonderful for you. We have Rick Guidotti here, and just before I introduce Rick Guidotti, Marie-Jose Contreras is going to talk about the tent. Remember yesterday we talked about, and you've seen, the tent. And this is called the intent, and that intent is for your intention. And we'd love for you to join us in scribbling on the tent, inside the tent, or on cards, because again, we're trying to gather from this community our intentions, whatever those are, whatever our worries are, and wherever our joy is placed. So Marie-Jose, come quick. We're ready to go, and she's going to describe it in much better terms than I will.
Buenos dias, good morning, hello everybody. During the last decades, we've been learning a complex vocabulary of words like dystrophin, exons, introns, sacrolemma. Any other words, difficult words? Anyone? Yeah, thank you. So the Intent Connection is a project that aims to provide the conditions to connect with other type of language, with other type of words. Words that come from our intentions, from our emotions, from our feelings. So we invite you all, people affected by Duchenne, caregivers, industry partners, to come inside our intent. We will give you a postcard with a question, a prompt, and you can come inside and use all of our amazing supplies to answer that prompt. You can draw, you can write a poem, you can write a mini essay, you can make a collage, whatever comes into your mind to answer that prompt. We will collect these postcards and hopefully we will exhibit them or maybe publish them in a book in the future. We really want to hear the community voices regarding their feelings and their experience with Duchenne. While you wait or after you fill in your postcard, you are invited also to scribble, draw, and write on the tent, on the outside of the tent. So we hope by this afternoon to have our tent full of your words, drawings, illustrations, and whatever comes into your minds. So we will be open from now until 5. You're all welcome. Please join us and take a moment today to come and visit our Intent Connection. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie-Jose. So I have the great pleasure to present to you Rick Guidotti. I think I told you yesterday, Rick is going to help us celebrate our 30th anniversary next year, Orlando, Florida, same last weekend in June. But in the meantime, Rick is going to capture all of us together who've changed the world, just as he has changed the world with positive exposure, looking at beauty in different ways, because all of us bring our superpowers, our beauty, our intent to this community, to this world, to change things. So with that, my dear friend, Rick Guidotti.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everybody. It's a thrill to be here. I'm so excited to be in Dallas with all of you. Had so much fun photographing yesterday, and we will continue that today. So I'm Rick Guidotti. I'm the founder of this organization, Positive Exposure. Positive Exposure is a nonprofit organization that promotes a more inclusive world through photography, through film, and through educational programs. So I started my career as a photographer, as a fashion photographer, living in Milan and Paris, and also my studios in New York City. I got to work with some amazing models. This is Claudia Schiffer from a Harper's Bazaar photo shoot, from Elle magazine, Marie Claire. I got to work with Yves Saint Laurent in Paris. I did a lot of work with the House of Saint Laurent. This is a portrait of Mr. Saint Laurent that's in every boutique worldwide currently, and an image from one of our global campaigns. From French Elle magazine, New York Style magazine, French Elle once again. And here, of course, is the amazing Cindy Crawford. It was from a Revlon shoot. It was so exciting working in the industry, shooting for these great models and working with these great clients, living in Paris and Milan and New York. It was fantastic. But it was also really frustrating because I was always told who was beautiful. I'm an artist. I never saw beauty just on covers of magazines. I never saw beauty. I see beauty actually everywhere around me, never just within those very small parameters of the beauty standard. It was so frustrating doing that. And every season they would tell us, who the model of the moment was, who the face was, and we'd run and photograph that face. And it was so frustrating because, again, always seeing beauty everywhere around me. I left my studio one afternoon after doing a casting in New York City for Elle magazine. I was walking down Park Avenue when I spotted a kid waiting for a bus. She was stunning. She had long white hair, pale skin. She had this genetic condition called albinism. Albino was the common term. She was stunning, yet never included in the beauty standard. I never met a model that looked like this. The bus came, she got on the bus and took off, and I had to find photographs of this gorgeous kid or friends of hers that shared the same genetic condition. So I went to the School of Visual Arts in New York City and studied photography and film and art. Never saw a medical textbook prior to that moment. But I thought that would be a great start to find images of this gorgeous kid or friends of hers that shared the same condition. So I grabbed that medical textbook at the closest Barnes & Noble nearby the studio, opened it up to albinism, so excited to find these images of this gorgeous kid. But these are the images that I found instead. I didn't find images of that gorgeous kid. I saw this bright red eye was captioned the albino eye. This kid did not have bright red eyes. She had beautiful blue eyes. Then I saw lots of images in cancer clinics showing cancers and sores and open wounds around the globe. And then I saw countless photographs of not just kids with albinism, but many other genetic conditions, all presented the same way. Usually the kids were in their underwear up against walls in doctors' offices with those black bars across their eyes. I very quickly shut that medical textbook, put it back on the shelf, hoping to never have to see another medical textbook for the rest of my life. So I went to an encyclopedia thinking, that's where the photographs will be. But instead, it was the image of the circus, a family in the circus. And the more digging I did, the more negative representation I started finding. Certainly in Hollywood, where it was the Princess Bride to Powder, who had albinism because his mother was struck by lightning when she was pregnant with him. To the Matrix Reloaded, it was these ghost-like characters that come in, they'd wreak havoc, and they'd simply disappear. To the most recently, the Da Vinci Code, it was evil Silas driving around Paris at night shooting at people. Well, one of the first things I discovered in my research about the genetic condition albinism is that people with this condition have a visual impairment. Most people with albinism are considered legally blind, so certainly would not be driving around Paris at night shooting at anybody and expect to hit any of those targets. So this information that's out there was terrible. But I did see that there was a support organization called NOAA, the National Organization for Albinism and Hypopigmentation. I'm so excited when I found them. I called them immediately and said, hey, I'm a fashion photographer. Let's show the world the beauty of albinism. This is going to be amazing. And they said, get lost. I'm a New Yorker. I don't give up quite so easily. So I kept after them. In early days, they made it very clear to me about their fear of exploitation. That every time there was a magazine article about a kid with albinism, it was always a story about a victim. It was always the story, it was always sensational. It was always exploitative. It was always negative. And I said, well, I have to agree with you. I've been searching and I can't find one positive representation about albinism anywhere, and I've been searching. So let's do something strange here. Let's form a non-traditional partnership. Fashion photographer, genetic support group, and together we'll collaborate and create a photographic essay that celebrates the beauty of albinism. And they agreed. Positive Exposure was born the day. I'm so excited to get started. In walks the first model. Her name is Christine. She's stunning, 5'7", long white hair, pale skin. She walks into my studio, but when she walks in with her shoulders hunched, head down, no eye contact, one-word answers. This kid had zero self-esteem as a direct result of the bullying and the teasing she experienced every single day in the classroom environment because of her difference. And it broke my heart thinking, how am I going to photograph this gorgeous kid? I've never met anybody who had such low self-esteem. But I thought just the day before I photographed Cindy Crawford on the same set for another Revlon shoot in my studio, and I thought, out of respect for Christine, I'm going to photograph her like I would any supermodel. So the fan went on, the music went on, and I literally grabbed a mirror that was next to the set, and I held it up there, and I said, Christine, look at yourself. You're magnificent. And this kid who's standing there in front of me like this, all of a sudden looked in the mirror and saw what I saw. She saw her reflection, and she saw beauty in that reflection. And she went from this to this. and exploded with a smile that literally lit up New York City. Christina was just desperately needed to change the way she saw herself. Christine desperately, her community desperately needed to change the way that they saw her difference. So she created a philosophy, early days in positive exposure, that we continue to follow. And that philosophy is change how you see how you change. Christina walked into school the next day, not like she normally does, with her head down, shoulders hunched, but walked in with new vision of her own beauty and of her own self-acceptance, changing the way that people around her saw her difference. Those first images were a cover story in Life magazine called Redefining Beauty. It got lots of accolades and received lots of awards. And as I was traveling around the world with my fashion work, I would be connecting with the albinism support groups that were in the local communities. Albinism itself has an incidence of 1 in 20,000 worldwide. This is Gladys Mir. She's a Kuna Indian in the San Blas region of Panama, where it's the highest incidence in the world. It's 1 in 125. This is Mare from Fiji in the South Pacific, where at the turn of the 19th century, a tribe could not hold their territory unless they had somebody with albinism in a powerful political position. My great friend Lauren from Australia. Lauren has a sister who also has albinism, but her sister chooses to dye her hair, her eyelashes, and her eyebrows. So even in the same family support system, we have very different ideas about self-acceptance. My great friends from the Siloe School in South Africa, in Polokwane, and twin boys in Tanzania in East Africa. As I received so many awards and so many accolades for the Life magazine piece. It was really exciting. But the most amazing award was from the Genetic Alliance. The Genetic Alliance is a coalition of all the genetic support groups that are based in DC. And they presented me the Art of Reporting Award. It was a great honor. And as I'm receiving the award, the president at the time said, I'm looking at all these beautiful images of albinism around the globe, and there's a universal message here. This isn't just about albinism. This is about all differences. Would you ever consider coming to some of the other genetic support groups that we support and celebrate their differences? Like, what a great idea. Well, we have a conference coming up very soon for the Chromosome 18 Registry and Research Society. It's in San Antonio, Texas. Would you go? I'm like, I'd love that. That's great. What's it about? She said, well, you know, when you have an anomaly on your 18th chromosome. Fashion photographer. I never heard the words anomaly and chromosome in the same sentence prior to that moment, so I went back to those medical textbooks to find out what that meant. And these are the images that I saw. I saw lots of stillborn images. So lots of images of kids with trachs and cleft palates and feeding tubes and mobility issues, and I thought, this is difficult. This is really challenging because albinism was so easy. But I went to San Antonio and I had these images burned in my head. I figured I'm going to do something on this is going to be really difficult. But I walked in and there was a clown on stage making balloon animals as I walked into the auditorium. And I had these images, like, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I walked in, all of a sudden the room was the room was full of kids screaming with laughter. There were kids in that room with cleft palates and trachs and feeding tubes and mobility issues. But there were kids, and I'm thinking, where was that one smile, that one giggle when I was researching a chromosome 18 anomaly? It would have changed everything for me. These are some of the great kids that I met. That's Pauline. That's Sean. This is Ellington, the coolest kid that I know. Remy, whose senior photographs we just did a couple weeks ago. And that's Rebecca. They weren't just kids. They were kids and adults, but they were people. And there was humanity in that room. There was laughter and love and giggles. And I thought, wow, we've got to make that. We've got to change that. That's wild. But we had so much fun photographing that weekend. I came back to the studio in New York City, and I was approached by Francis Collins, who was then the director of the National Human Genome Research Institute. Francis said, Dr. Collins said, you know, we just mapped the people's genome and we're going to do an exhibition and we're inviting you as a photographer and artist to create a photographic exhibition that's going to launch at the Smithsonian, the Museum of Natural History, showing albinism around the world, showing diversity in that diagnosis. I was very honored about this exhibition. I'm so excited about this one. I said, you know, I just came back from the Chromosome 18 conference, and there's a universal message here. Can we invite all the other genetic support groups to participate participate. So it's a real celebration of the people's genome. And he agreed. The first group that stepped up was the National Marfan Foundation. The Marfan syndrome is a connective tissue disorder. You grow very, very tall. You're at risk of an aortic dissection. You have scoliosis and very long limbs and long arms. These are the photographs that I saw in those medical textbooks when I did my research about chromosome, about a connective tissue disorder. Sorry about that. And I thought, okay, I understand the importance of these images to show how a healthcare provider in training or a practitioner, how does a connective tissue disorder present itself? But I said, but as an artist, there must be a way that I can add that one key ingredient that's missing in this photograph. And of course, that key ingredient is Billy. That key ingredient is humanity, giving you all the information you need as a healthcare provider, but also giving you a little bit of Billy, which is amazing. This is Christopher. Now, everybody's an art director, and Christopher had very strong ideas how he wanted to be photographed. Very proud of his Marfan syndrome, very proud of his long fingers and his pectus excavatum and his scoliosis, and that's how he wanted to be photographed. So opening night of the People's Genome Celebration at the Smithsonian, his image was hanging from the ceiling in the rotunda at the Museum of Natural History. It was 8 foot square. Great party, everybody was there, it was fantastic. This woman comes up to me in the middle of the presentation and the evening events, and she said, you know, my dad has Marfan syndrome. I have Marfan syndrome. And every year we go to the beach, we cover up our scoliosis and our pectus excavatum with our beach gear. But after meeting Christopher, I am so buying a bikini. Again, change how you see how you change. So as I started working with all the different support groups, these of course were all the images that I was confronted with. All really scary images of disease, of syndromes, of diagnoses. No, very little humanity in any of these images. But of course, the kids that I met when I was creating this exhibition and continue for the next 25 years are very different. This is Caleb. He has achondroplasia, which is a very common form of dwarfism. Caleb wants to be the president of the United States or an actor. I told him all about Ronald Reagan, and now he's thrilled that he can do both, and chances are he will. So definitely keep your eyes and ears open for the amazing Caleb. Here's Dr. Nadi. Dr. Nadi has a rare form of dwarfism called acromesomelic dysplasia. I met Dr. Nadi as a second-year med student in Doha, an education city, where she told me the only thing she needs to be a successful physician is a stepladder. She got that stepladder. She became a doctor. She did her residency at Children's Health Hospital, Dayton, Ohio, went on to do her postdoc at Baylor, and now she's in DC, and that's Dr. Nadia. My great friends Maggie and Danielle. I went to my first Costello syndrome conference and I didn't know much about Costello syndrome, never met anyone with Costello syndrome prior to that moment. Turns out it was their first conference as well. They never met anyone that shared the same syndrome. And I was there when they met, and they became instant best friends. And the whole weekend, they were running around screaming and giggling and laughing. It was so much fun to see this bond happening. And every year, I go back to that conference, and every year, they're still there, and they're still great friends. The only thing that's changed over the years is they started a rock and roll band. They're really amazing. They're really loud, but they're really amazing. Here's Jada living with 22q11.2 deletion. Jada has the best giggle on the planet. I got to meet with Jada again. It's in the conference last summer, the first one after we started traveling again after the pandemic, in Split, Croatia. Here's Simone, who represents the National Down Syndrome Foundation of Italy. Curtis and Alex, who refused to apologize for their vitiligo, refused to cover it up with makeup, refused to be referred to as a victim or suffering with vitiligo. They are simply living with vitiligo. Curtis just received a full ride to University of Tennessee for basketball scholarship, and Alex wants to be a stand-up comedian, and he's amazing. And of course, over the years, I got to hang out with Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy and just having so much fun working with so many families here. But I've been to probably 3 or 4 conferences, would you say? 4 conferences, plus around the globe as well. And these are just a quick idea of some of the images that we really want to create going forward for the 30th anniversary. We have so many beautiful images in our archive and expect to create so many more celebrating Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy and all the amazing families that they represent and support. So I'm so thrilled to be part of this new initiative and this 30th anniversary. Really excited about that. Thank you. Very excited. Here's Lucas and his dad. Lucas is living with Fragile X syndrome, which is the leading familial genetic marker for autism. I'll be back here in Ohio in a couple of weeks for the Fragile X conference. Here's Ronan living with Prader-Willi syndrome. I always have to use this photograph because it reminds me of Frank Sinatra, and I love him. Jasper living with Angelman syndrome. Here's the gorgeous Chloe. Now, Chloe is nonverbal. She's living with cerebral palsy, but nonverbal. But as you can see from Chloe's image, that even though she doesn't speak and doesn't use words, you can certainly know and will always know exactly what she's thinking about. Here's the amazing Judy Human, great friend of ours. We just lost her. Disability rights activist, disability justice activist around the globe, star of Crip Camp. If you haven't seen Crip Camp, it's Netflix. You must see it. It'll be your next favorite movie, I promise you. But Judy is an old school political activist, disability rights activist, disability justice activist. And here, of course, is Gaten, who's a modern-day activist. Well, Gaten writes into his contract each season for Stranger Things that he must mention cladocranial dysplasia in at least 2 episodes every season. And he uses this social media platform to really promote and celebrate not only cladocranial dysplasia, but all rare disease. Very vocal. Before the pandemic, I was traveling around the globe working with kids and adults that don't have a diagnosis, have complications, health complications, but they don't have a diagnosis. When you have a diagnosis, of course, you know your advocacy group, you have your family support, you have your specialists. Undiagnosed, you're pretty much on your own. So right before the pandemic, we traveled to West Africa and India and Australia and continued on to the Netherlands and throughout Sweden and throughout the United States. Tomorrow, I'm flying off to Seoul, Korea, where we'll be photographing 30 families. I'm really excited about that. I've never been to Korea, so I'm very excited. If anybody wants to come with me, please, we'll get your ticket right away. I'm really excited about this. Again, celebrating, going to centers of excellence around the globe, bringing communities together, make sure people don't feel alone ever, because without your advocacy groups, you are pretty much alone. So we're creating opportunities to really make sure that we're connecting communities globally. This is Kaylin. Now, Kaylin was born with a condition called Sturge-Weber syndrome. As you can see, she has a birthmark bilaterally across her face. She has it internally, so she has a seizure disorder associated with Sturge-Weber, and glaucoma, so she's blind in her left eye. But as she came to the studio to be photographed, she was 14 years old. She walked in, we probably created 18 billion photographs that day. She wrote all these outfits. We had so much fun photographing. At the end of the shoot, though, her mom calls me, and her mom says, Kaylin never talks to me about school, because she knows if her kids are teasing her in school, I'm going to come in the next day swinging a baseball bat. And that just makes things worse for her, so she says nothing. But after we left your studio, she told me, Mom, kids tell me every single day I'm ugly. They tell me every single day that I'm a freak and I'm a monster. And I believe them until today. And then she mobilized, she got me to go to her school and present positive exposure to 400 students, where she was on stage with me and her little Madonna-esque headphones running around stage screaming, what is normal? So this gorgeous kid created a formula that everything we do at Positive Exposure must follow. And that formula is self-acceptance equals self-esteem equals self-advocacy. To create the tools that we need to place in the hands of our ambassadors, their friends, their families, their community, to change the way the world sees their difference, to celebrate the beauty and richness of human diversity. One of those programs that we've created is the Pearls Project, which is an online blog platform for all of our ambassadors to talk about life from their unique perspective. I invite all of our families here to participate in the Pearls Project. It'll be really exciting to have all of our great guys here at the PPMD to really tell their stories and share their stories. We also created a Mother of Pearls project. And this is actually, we created this program with our moms here from the PPMD. And these are just some of the gorgeous faces that you're going to see here today. And we're going to continue with this idea and this effort to really kind of create the voices and create awareness and really creating space to tell all of our incredible stories. I created, I go to medical schools around the country, not necessarily because I want to teach the science behind the genetic conditions that we're presenting, but really because I can pronounce arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. And I can spell it, I know what it means, but not because I studied it in a medical textbook. I know what it means and I understand what it is because I've actually went to a family conference and met PJ. Now PJ can't use his hands because of the type of arthrogryposis that he has. So his parents call his eating technique his Viking dive. Because he'll go into his plate of mashed potatoes and come up, and he goes into his plate of peas and he comes up. Then he chases his sisters around the table with a face full of mashed potatoes and peas, creating opportunities to really, you'll never forget arthrogryposis multiplex congenitive after that, because you will never forget PJ. So what I've created, and it's just, so I go to these family conferences they start in June and they go usually through till August. And when I can, I bring local medical students with me and healthcare providers in training, and I shove them in daycare and I lock the door on them and I leave them in there. And I check back at them at the end of the day and they're always a little shell-shocked and they always have like poop on their shoulder or like gum in their hair. But they're going to be better healthcare providers because they met these kids not in the clinical environment. They met these kids not in crisis. They met these kids just being kids. And really, and that's such a great way to make these connections. I'm not sure if my videos are going to be working, but we created a series of films called FRAME. FRAME stands for Faces Redefining the Art of Medical Education, creating opportunities for all of our ambassadors to talk about life from their unique perspective. But again, also creating all the basic hallmark characteristics that you need to know about a certain diagnosis or a topic, but as presented by someone living that condition themselves or that experience themselves. So placing front row and center in medical training humanity. Creating opportunities, again, for healthcare providers in training to learn earlier in their training that it's never what you're treating, but always who you're treating. I'm going to see if this works. Hopefully this will. See if it does. Yes. This is a sample.
Hey, my name is Noah, and I'd like to introduce you to some of my friends. We all have a genetic condition called albinism. You may have seen us in movies or heard that we're all evil or have magic powers or have red eyes. We're like any other group of people. We're all different, we're all unique, and you will see here the diversity among us.
Albinism affects people across the world from all ethnicities, but it's not only in humans, it affects animals too, and all kinds of them as well.
There are two main types of albinism, ocular cutaneous and ocular albinism. Ocular cutaneous affects the eyes, the skin, and the hair, and ocular affects just the eyes.
Say it's my birthday.
My name is Alex.
And I'm Ezra.
And this is Cassie and Penelope.
Hello. Hello.
And Cassie was born with a genetic syndrome called Marfan syndrome.
We wanted to show you a feature Cassie was born with. As you can see, Cassie's chest sinks inward toward the middle. This is called pectus excavatum. But Penelope, what is it that you and Cassie call it?
Target.
Why do we call it a target, Cass?
Because Penelope likes to shoot water. Yeah, she used to laugh all the time when I put water in it.
Why would you put water in there?
Because that's what made her laugh. Can you take a picture of it?
I am. I'm doing it right now. I'm making a movie of it.
Chromosomes are the instructions that tell our bodies how to grow and develop. Most people have 2 copies of each chromosome for a total of 46 chromosomes. Some people have 47 chromosomes. Most people who have Down syndrome have 3 copies of chromosome 21, also known as trisomy 21. This is caused by a sporadic event known as non-disjunction, which usually occurs prior to conception.
Max.
Hi, I'm Mitch.
I'm 15 years old. It's been a great road for me. It's basically like an extra chromosome, and that chromosome blends in the awesomeness and blends in all of the loyalty, and I could go on and on about it, but...
Max can go on and on about it, and Max does go on and on about it. He's an amazing advocate for the National Down Syndrome Society. He's a great advocate and a great ambassador for change. Each frame film, they're only about 10 to 12 minutes long. Each one is accompanied by a photographic gallery, so you see diversity within that diagnosis. But then you also have links for more information that you need to glean more than a 10 or 12 minute film. It's really more of an introduction. We've created so many opportunities, not just in the genetics community as well, but here's a collaboration we did in collaboration with Uniformed Services University and Walter Reed and the Wounded Warriors, creating a film on limb salvage, amputation, and prosthetic usage. Just completed a series on the lack of diversity in medical training. This is a film on representation in dermatology, on black and brown skin in dermatology training. Starting a new initiative with the NICUs around the country, creating opportunities and a space and platform for not only the families that spend lots of time in the NICUs, but also hearing from the men and women and the people that work in the NICUs, from the neonatologists down to the men and women that scrub those floors and make sure that those kids live in a germ-free environment. Again, sharing stories and creating that platform. Really important to us, of course, is to create an alternative to the dehumanizing images that I saw so many years ago, creating opportunities to replace those images with images of beauty. We're starting a new platform that's going to launch in the next week or so called Textbook Beauty, creating an opportunity for healthcare providers in training, faculty, and practitioners to download images and utilize these images of Lily and friends of theirs with 4P- or Wolf Hirschhorn, and there's a great friend Andy with neurofibromatosis type 1. And of course, there's our Kaylin representing Sturge-Weber syndrome. We have a gallery in East Harlem. You all must come. You're all invited. It's a multimedia gallery and performance space, the northern part of Central Park. Lots of activities there we have our film studios there, but we have a lot of artists in residence, performances, and rotating exhibitions. During the pandemic, we put a 4-story mural, because we couldn't be inside, in our courtyard of the word love in over 100 languages, and started a national campaign to fill the world with love, creating outdoor exhibition installations. Our exhibitions of positive exposure are very, very public. This is an exhibition on Hunter syndrome, or an NPS, that launched in Grand Central Station. We did a lot of pre-production photography in Poland and Germany, so we went back to the streets of Warsaw with the exhibit, and then also in the Berlin train station, and also several malls in Russia. This is our very first billboard from the road from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, UNESCO in Paris, Mayo Clinic and the Art Institute of Rochester exhibition. Children's hospitals would create opportunities and community-based exhibitions in children's hospitals around the country, actually around the globe, creating opportunities to see these kids not in crisis again, but hear more about their stories. This is an exhibition we created in Colorado Springs. The same thing in Sydney and throughout Australia, Faroe Islands, George Eastman Museum. This is an exhibition on psoriasis that we went to 27 countries, and created these exhibitions and traveling. This is our first launch of our digital exhibition that launched in Europe. And of course, a very special exhibition, so close to my heart, in collaboration with Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy Italy. They certainly know how to throw a party. This was Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy Awareness Day on September 7th, 2017. It was a community-based exhibition that really kind of celebrated Duchenne and raised awareness, and it was an extraordinary event to actually have Duchenne appear on the Colosseum in Rome. They do, again, know how to throw a party, and hopefully we'll collaborate with them and they'll be part of our 30th anniversary as well. And that's our story. Change how you see how you change. We all have inside of us the power to change the way the world sees difference by using our own talents, our passions, and our belief that we all absolutely, no matter where we are, which country, we all have the same need, and that's a need to be seen, a need to be heard, a need to be loved, and a need to belong. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
I might be in love with you. So it is my hope that by the time we are 30 years old, we have an exhibition of all of you who changed worlds and who have children and who are young men and women who are carriers and Becker muscular dystrophy and all the parents and grandparents, because I'm a grandparent too now, grandparents and researchers and industry partners and clinicians who care for and wrap their arms around all of us. I want you celebrated all around the world, and I think he can do it. And we will start in New York City, and then we have partners here from the Netherlands. We have our wonderful friends from Italy here. Normal is here from Nepal. We can show the world so that you don't get a diagnosis and your neighbor comes to you and says, yeah, I've never heard of that. And you know, my uncle's brother's cousin had MS, and I think that's exactly the same thing. And you just go like, oh my God, that's the end of the world. So we want to celebrate you. So thank you, Rick. You are wonderful.